Hello fans of the Howling Turtle book blog. My name is Martin Rouillard and I am the author of the Tales of the Lord Keepers book series, which includes 3 books so far: Rise of the Red Dragon, The Giants of Albion, and the latest book, The Last Prince of Troy, which just came out a few months ago. It's a young adult fantasy book series, so if this is your cup of tea, make sure to check it out. They're available everywhere on both ebook and paper version. I want to thank Larissa for setting up this interview. I understand that this is a first video interview for the Howling Turtle blog, so it's, I guess, a bit of an honor to be the guinea pig of this little experiment, and it should be a lot of fun, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so first question, could you tell us a bit about yourself? Well, I am French-Canadian. I'm sure you've already noticed the accent that I have when I speak. I'm fortunate enough to be able to speak both English and French, but French is my native language. I live just outside of Quebec City, and I have been able so far to work full-time as a writer. I'm fortunate enough to have been able to do that now for the past 4 years, and that allowed me to publish 3 books, as I've mentioned before. All of them are published in both French and English, which is a challenge, but so far it's working really well, and I couldn't be happier with the way things are going right now. Before I became a writer, I was a business owner. There was this family business, which was a chair manufacturing company. And I worked there for 15 years, doing every step of the production process, eventually trying out pretty much every job in the office, from marketing, sales, to market development as well. And the past 5 years, I became one of the co-owner of this company. And but after 15 years of doing this and working at the same place, I kind of wanted to try different stuff. I wanted new challenges and not just different version of the same challenge that just keep repeating and coming back. So we decided to sell the company, and I tried a few things. I never really thought I would become a writer. That never really crossed my mind at first, but I can't remember exactly when. But one of these days I just decided to see if, first of all, I could finish a book. That was at first the challenge that I had set up for myself, was to see if I could actually complete a book, because it is much harder than it looks when you set out to do it. But you know, things worked pretty well, and 4 years later I'm still doing it and loving it. Other than that, I'm passionate about cooking. I love to cook just about anything. I hate doing the same thing twice, so I'll try all kinds of methods and ingredients and you know, different dishes. I guess it's a little bit like writing a book. It's you got all these ingredients. In the case of a book, you have like your characters and your environments and the plot lines, and you're trying to do something with it, like you kind of mashing it up all together, trying different methods and different ways of working with all of this, and you hope that the result is going to be something that people would enjoy. So I guess I'm finding a little bit of that in cooking and mixology recently that I've started to look into, which is a lot of fun. So there you go. That's a little bit about myself. So next question, why do you write? That's because there's voices in my head. I mean, no, it's really the creative side of it that I guess attracted me at first. Because I've always been a creative person. Like, I've always had to do something creative with myself. I try pretty much every kind of art that there is: painting, sculpting, and comic book even. So I guess one day I just wanted to see, like I said, if I could complete a book. And you know, it was more a challenge that I set for myself of seeing if I can write something. But at the same time, with this creative side that I have, I also have a more business side. I was going to say rational, but no, it's more like a business entrepreneurship side. I think that's an English word as well as in French. Um, it's different challenges when you're in business, when you're a business owner or a self-employed person. You know, you got to think on your feet. You got to be quick. You got to think about your product. You got to think about your strategy. You got to think about the price and your customer and all of that. And it's constant problem solving basically. Every day there's a problem that emerges, and as a business owner, you have to find a solution for that problem. And that's also something that I'm really drawn to. So when I first started writing, um, I didn't really realize that self-publishing was an option. I had heard of ebooks and you know people doing their own thing, but it really wasn't that popular, especially in French. In French market, it was basically non-existent. Um, so I started writing Rise of the Red Dragon, my first book, just to get this idea out of my head. And while I was looking online on methods of developing characters and keeping the tension at appropriate levels throughout the book, eventually I stumbled on articles about self-publishing. You know, Joe Conrad's blog, it's a great place to look if you're into self-publishing. Yuhui was starting at the same time. You know, there was already the Creative Pen. There was already all these blogs that were talking about self-publishing. And that's when the business side of me kind of went, wait a second, maybe this, you know, I can do this. Maybe I can combine both the creative and the business vibe that I have in me with this. I can create a book and then put on my business hat and try to sell it as a self-employed person. And so I finished the first book and I started publishing it. I started, you know, putting it together, putting the ebook together and published it. And that was it. I was hooked. I mean, the first time you get a review and I remember putting it for free at first because I just wanted to see if people were going to enjoy it. I would end my day with 5 downloads and I'd be all excited. I was like, there are 5 people that have never heard of me who have decided to take some time out of their life to read what I wrote. And that was an incredible feeling. So that's what really hooked me and keeps me going 4 years later. It's, you know, it's nice now that we're in times where authors can make a living at what they do much easier, but it's the same thing that drove authors, you know, a few decades ago, where it's that passion that you have that just keeps you going. So this is why I write. So third question, if you could jump inside the world of your book, who would you be and what would you do? That is a tough one. First of all, I'm not even sure if I really want to jump into the world that I created, just because it is a dangerous place. I mean, the things that I put Samuel, my main character, through, I'm not sure I would really want to go through that myself. I guess being the bad guy has always been something that intrigued me. I don't know if I would be the bad guy, but it certainly would be interesting. Because I always have this theory that, you know, most villains, they don't think of themselves as the bad guy. They just have a different opinion on how things should be going and what the world should be like. And in their mind, the heroes are the bad guys because they are the one trying to prevent them from doing what they think is right. I guess for most of them, but maybe not all of them. But in all seriousness, if I had to choose one character, I guess it would be from my second book, The Giants of Albion. There's this character called Brutus of Troy. He is a descendant of Trojans, and he is leading what's left of the Trojan after the Trojan War, and he's leading them to a place where they can settle and start over. And this is an interesting character because he tries to do whatever is right with for his people, and no matter what it is. And generally, he is an awesome guy. Like, he's a good guy, and he's a firm leader, but he's also a just leader. But he walks that line between what he needs to do and the limits where you can go before you go more like on the dark side. And he walks that line pretty carefully, but sometimes you can question his action. But again, it's all in the interest of his people. And it's interesting because the main character who needs to protect the legend and needs to protect Brutus, at the same time, sometimes he will ask himself, should I allow Brutus to do what he's about to do? So there's this moral dilemma that takes place. He needs to protect the legend, but sometimes the legend puts forth events that he's not sure he really likes. So I guess Brutus of Troy is an interesting character, and he's had such an impact in history and in mythology that you cannot really not like this guy. So I guess that would be who I would be if I were in my world. Now, would I do what would I do? Would I do things differently than what he did? That's a tough question. I don't know. I mean, ultimately the decision that he took led to his people settling on this island and becoming one of today's world main country, and they were at some point one of the large empire in the world as well. So I guess it did things right, and I don't think I would change anything. So Brutus of Troy it is.